Hi, my name is Dominic Johnson. I'm a MyTax intern here from Durham University, and I'm looking at how obesity and type 2 diabetes influences our immune function. We know there's definitely an effect. We saw this, all of us, during COVID, where obese individuals and type 2 individuals were far more likely to be hospitalised. So there's definitely something more going on underneath the surface. Fat cells aren't just minding their own business, they're directly pulling the strings on a whole range of bodily processes. And we're looking at the immune function in particular. And we're looking at type 2 and obesity together because more often than not, they come hand in hand. In fact, if you are obese, you are 80 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes. And both work through different mechanisms. So distinguishing between them both and their individual effects on immune function is of incredible relevance and importance to treating an obese population. So we're going to use a kind of funny explanation for how we analysed immune function and how immune function actually decreases with obesity. Because as you can see, we used 3 different groups, one being obese without type 2 and one being obese with type 2. And we could actually distinguish then between these groups and attribute any differences to either type 2 or obesity alone. And as you can see, we saw a decrease in immune function with each group, showing that there's kind of an additive effect of type 2 and obesity together on immune function. So we measured immune function using tracking something called cytokines. Cytokines are chemical signals used by our immune system, and you can think of them kind of like tweets. So tweets can be inflammatory, and to use a kind of real world example, Trump tweets lots of inflammatory things, so Trump will be our fat cell. So let's go back to the beginning of Trump's presidency. He tweets something inflammatory, there's a big reaction, retweets, it goes viral, you could say, excuse the pun, and it's all over the news. And in the same sense, when our body's exposed to a threat, or for example, cytokines secreted by fat tissue, there will be a big response. However, chronically, when, for example, more tweets are tweeted, one more inflammatory than the next, and people start to get bored, it's less likely to feature on the news. The same kind of process happens in our body. Our immune cells are constantly exposed to these cytokines, and they just stop reacting to the same degree. So when a real threat comes along, and when a real piece of news, for example, recently casually announcing UFOs and validating their existence essentially, we're not bothered. And in the same sense, when a real threat comes to an obese individual with type 2 diabetes, for example, COVID, our immune system is less likely to mount the same kind of response, and therefore leaving individuals more immunocompromised and more vulnerable to a whole range of diseases. So I hope that kind of explains very briefly and in a silly kind of way how obesity can affect our immune function and what I've kind of been doing to distinguish between obesity and type 2. Thank you so much for listening.